What if Utah's most astonishing places were never meant for postcards? This is a land sculpted by silence and time. Once buried beneath ancient seas, now lifted, cracked, and carved by fire, wind, and water. People have crossed its deserts chasing dreams, some seeking escape, others adventure. Long before wagon wheels marked the dust, this was home to indigenous tribes who read the stars and followed rivers. Today, Utah still calls out to wanderers, but not for what's obvious, for what hides in the folds of stone and shadow. Join me. We'll move slowly, like sunlight across red rock, and uncover Utah's quiet marvels, one forgotten wonder at a time. In the desert's heart lies a place where stone becomes creature. Goblin Valley is filled with hundreds of strange, bulbous formations. Like clay figures molded by some ancient, playful hand. Cowboys once stumbled into this valley and called them goblins. The name stuck. Here, wind and water have sculpted sandstone into pillars, domes, and spires. Some only inches tall, others towering like frozen giants. At sunrise, they cast long shadows across the rust-colored earth. At night, they vanish into the stars. Moves differently here. At Arches National Park, stone is fluid, reshaped by seasons and centuries. More than 2,000 natural arches rise from the red desert, each formed by erosion, pressure, and persistence. The delicate arch, standing alone against the sky, is a symbol not just of Utah, but of endurance. Nearby, ancient petroglyphs etched into the rock remind us we are not the first to pass through this land. In the quiet, You can almost hear the wind carving its next creation. Zion is a sanctuary of stone. Canyons cut deep into the earth, their walls glowing orange in the late sun. The Narrows lead you through a watery corridor where sandstone rises 1,000 feet on either side. Narrow enough to touch both walls with outstretched arms. Here, hanging gardens bloom where water seeps through porous rock, and desert bighorn sheep navigate cliffs with ease. This place has been sacred for thousands of years. Its name, Zion, means refuge, and in its towering silence, it still is. Utah's inland sea breathes without waves. The Great Salt Lake is a world of contrasts, shimmering blue, crusted white, and, in its northern basin, shockingly pink. This color comes from salt-loving microorganisms that thrive where most life cannot. A railroad causeway called the Lucine Cutoff slices through the lake, creating two separate ecosystems, one dark and calm, the other radiant and briny. Thick salt deposits form along the shore, crunching beneath your boots like ancient snow. It is a place both alien and alive. Monument Valley rises from the desert like a cathedral of stone. These towering buttes and mesas are sacred to the Navajo people, who have lived here for centuries. Each formation has a name, a story, a spirit. The Mexican Hat Rock, perched like a balanced sombrero, greets travelers with quiet strength. In the 1860s, tragedy struck as the Navajo were forced to leave their homeland on the Long Walk. But they returned, and today, this land remains in their care. Here, tradition endures in every grain of red sand and every word spoken in Diné Bizad. On the quiet northern edge of the Great Salt Lake, a spiral of black basalt curls into the pink water. This is the spiral jetty. a land art sculpture created in 1970 by artist Robert Smithson, made from over 6,000 tons of volcanic rock. It was built not just as an object, but as a conversation, with time, with landscape, with decay. For years, it disappeared beneath the rising lake. Now, as the waters retreat, the spiral re-emerges, surrounded by crystalline salt and silence. Here, art and geology are one and the same. The wind never stops moving here. In coral pink sand dunes, grains of ancient sandstone, tinted by iron oxide, gather into soft, rolling waves that shift with every gust. The dunes are alive, reshaping themselves by the hour. They glow a soft rose at sunrise, deepening to burnt orange as the day warms. Off-roaders race across the open sand, but away from the engines. There's only the sound of wind carving its sculpture, one grain at a time. Some of these dunes have been here for 15,000 years, yet they're still on the move. There is a vastness here that humbles the soul. Canyonlands is a land split wide open, by rivers, by time, by gravity. 4 districts divide the park, each with their own flavor of wild: mesas, arches, pinnacles, and labyrinthine canyons. The Colorado and Green Rivers continue to shape this terrain, etching stories into the sandstone. It's easy to get lost here, not just in direction, but in thought. To stand on the rim and look down is to feel the deep silence of eons. High above the canyon floor, tucked into a shallow alcove of rock, lies a circle of stones. This is False Kiva, a mysterious structure whose purpose remains uncertain. Believed to have been built by ancestral peoples, its exact origins are lost to time. It's not marked on most maps. No signs point the way. But those who find it are rewarded with a framed view of the surrounding desert. Sunset pouring into the stone circle like golden breath. It feels less like a ruin and more like a prayer. They call it the world's longest art gallery. 9-mile canyon stretches for over 40 miles. Its walls etched with thousands of petroglyphs and pictographs left by the Fremont and Ute peoples. Figures with trapezoidal bodies, hunters on horseback, spirals, and spirits, etched into stone, enduring centuries of wind and sun. For ancient tribes, this was a corridor of travel ritual, and storytelling. Even now, you can walk beside the same canyon walls and read the past like a manuscript. Except here, the words are carved into sandstone. There's a silence on the Bonneville salt flats that feels almost lunar. Stretching across 64,000 acres, this dazzling white expanse is all that remains of a prehistoric lake. Now dried and hardened into a crust of pure salt. Flat, endless, still. But beneath this quiet lies speed. Since 1914, racers have come here chasing records, some pushing past 700 miles per hour across its perfectly smooth surface. In this barren place, humans fly, fueled not by roads, but by dreams of velocity and the open sky. In Utah's Badlands, one formation rises like a monolith from another planet. Factory Butte, stark and angular, earned its name from early pioneers who thought it looked like an industrial building. Made of soft, gray shale, it erodes easily, creating deep gullies and exposed ribs of earth. No trees grow here, no towns crowd its shadow. Its slopes are bare, silent, and haunting. For off-roaders, it's a playground. For the rest of us, it's a reminder of nature's raw geometry. Harsh, unshaped, and strikingly beautiful. From a cliff 2,000 feet high, the world seems to fall away. At Dead Horse Point, the Colorado River winds in lazy curves far below, carving out a sweeping vista of stone and time. Legend says cowboys once corralled wild mustangs here, fencing off the narrow neck of land. Some horses never left. Their story gave the place its name. Today, it's known for something else. Vast skies, layered mesas, and one of the best places in the world to watch stars burn bright over ancient Earth. Rising sharply from the valley floor, the Wasach Mountains stretch for more than 160 miles, forming a dramatic spine along the western edge of the Rockies. They are steep, snowy, and sacred to skiers, holding some of the driest, fluffiest powder in the world. But these peaks are more than playgrounds. They catch the storms, shape the climate, and feed the rivers. With elevations over 11,000 feet, their high passes once served as migration routes for wildlife and indigenous travelers. They are old mountains, sculpted by glaciers, wind, and tectonic breath. Hidden inside a dome of limestone, a pool of warm, mineral-rich water waits in stillness. This is the Homestead Crater, a geothermal hot spring kept at a balmy 90 to 96 degrees year-round. Its waters are 65 feet deep, crystal clear, and entirely enclosed. You can swim, soak, or even scuba dive in this naturally formed cavern, its ceiling open to the sky. Formed over 10,000 years, this place feels like a secret, a warm heart beating beneath layers of ancient stone. Not far from Utah's Bentonite Hills, scientists are already preparing for another planet. At the Mars Desert Research Station, researchers live in isolation, simulating what life might be like on the red planet. The surrounding terrain, rich in clay and streaked with color, closely resembles Martian landscapes. Inside the station, everything is limited: water, air, even communication. But the silence outside is limitless. Here, geology meets imagination, and every sunset over red rock feels like a glimpse into the future of exploration. Despite its name, Bryce Canyon isn't a canyon. It's a collection of natural amphitheaters carved from the Ponsaugunt Plateau. Thousands of hoodoos rise like spires in a cathedral, their orange, pink, and white layers glowing with the day's changing light. The Bryce Amphitheater stretches 12 miles wide, and in winter, snow settles gently on the stone, painting the desert with silence. To the Paiute people, these rock formations are legend people, turned to stone by the trickster god Coyote. In this place of myth and ice, the earth feels alive with stories. In a quiet corner of the Escalante wilderness, erosion has crafted a gallery of stone. Devil's Garden is filled with hoodoos, arches, and thin fins of sandstone, shaped slowly by wind and rain. Unlike other formations that crumble quickly, many of these remain intact thanks to protective layers of harder rock above. The silence here is undisturbed. There are no visitor centers, no paved paths, just you, the stone, and time. Some formations seem to lean or twist, but they hold, frozen mid-motion, like dancers in a desert waltz. Color sings in the canyons of Kodakchrome Basin. Named by a National Geographic expedition for its vivid hues, this park is a landscape of red, orange, and ivory stone columns known as sandpipes. Over 60 of them stand tall, remnants of ancient geysers filled with sediment and frozen in time. As light moves across the basin, the rocks shift in tone, from fire to gold to soft rose. Here, even silence is vibrant. Fossilized tracks and marine remains whisper of a time when this desert was once a shallow sea. Narrow and winding, Peekaboo Canyon draws you into a sandstone labyrinth no wider than your shoulders. Flash floods carved this passage long ago, leaving behind smooth curves, sculpted potholes, and a rhythm of light and shadow. At certain hours, beams of sun slide through the cracks above, dancing across red walls like firelight. The path demands crawling, climbing, sometimes squeezing sideways, but the reward is solitude, quiet, and the feeling of walking through the veins of the earth. This is not a canyon you pass through. It's a place that passes through you. Before there was a lake, there was a canyon, ancient, vast, and echoing with silence. When the Colorado River was dammed in the 1960s, it flooded this labyrinth of stone, birthing Lake Powell, one of the largest man-made reservoirs in the United States. At full capacity, it stretches 186 miles and touches more than 1,900 miles of shoreline, more than the entire West Coast. Navajo sandstone cliffs rise sharply from emerald water, their surfaces stained with the mineral fingerprints of time. Hidden coves, sunken canyons, and flooded temples lie beneath its surface, whispering of what once was. Visitors drift in houseboats, paddle kayaks between narrow rock corridors, and watch sunsets blaze across canyon walls reflected in still water. But it is also a place of tension, between beauty and loss, between energy and erosion, between what we preserve and what we submerge. Just upstream, the Glen Canyon Dam stands as a monument to mid-20th century ambition. Rising 710 feet from the canyon floor, it holds back the mighty Colorado River, storing millions of acre-feet of water for cities, farms, and industries downstream. Its construction was controversial, an engineering feat that created jobs and power, but also drowned sacred lands, archaeological sites, and vast wilderness. Today, the dam generates hydroelectric energy, its turbines humming deep inside concrete walls. Outside, the river emerges regulated, tame, no longer free to flood or roam. And yet, even here, nature pushes back. Erosion, sediment buildup, and shifting rainfall patterns test the dam's legacy. It is both triumph and question, etched into the canyon like a scar. At the southern edge of Lake Powell lies Wawweep Bay, one of the lake's most visited and photographed areas. Marinas stretch into the water like metallic fingers, offering access to winding channels and secluded beaches. It's a hub for boaters, campers, and explorers seeking the remote arms of the reservoir. But this is a living shoreline, shaped constantly by drought and flood, by sun and sediment. As lake levels fluctuate year to year, docks must be moved, roads extended, launch ramps rebuilt. The sandstone cliffs surrounding the bay wear these changes like rings in a tree, light and dark bands showing where water once stood. Above it all, cliffs reflect golden light at dusk, as swallows dart across the sky and the water turns to glass. Few places on Earth feel as wild, as ungraspable as Grand StaircaseEscalante. Spanning nearly 2 million acres of canyons, mesas, and slick rock wilderness, this vast monument is named for the layered steps of stone that rise from the Grand Canyon northward, each a chapter in Earth's deep history. Here, dinosaur fossils lie buried in rock. Slot canyons twist through walls barely wide enough for breath. Petroglyphs mark shaded alcoves, and ancient seabeds reveal themselves in the curve of a ridge. There are no highways cutting through its core. No fences, just open space and geologic time, stretching farther than the eye or mind can travel. At night, the stars return to their full brilliance, unhindered by city lights. This is one of the darkest skies in North America. In its vastness, you feel how small we are and how long the land has waited to be known. In a narrow canyon where red cliffs close in tightly on both sides, water flows with quiet determination. Lower Calf Creek Falls drops 126 feet into a cold, green pool below, its ribbon of water framed by ferns and streaked rock. Fed by Calf Creek, this waterfall flows year-round, a miracle in such an arid place. The trail to reach it winds through cottonwood groves and over desert sand, with ancient pictographs painted on the canyon walls along the way. These images tell stories of hunters, shamans, and spirits, watching the falls long before we arrived. At the base, the sound of water and the cool mist offer refuge. Even in the high heat of summer, the air here feels different, cool, shaded, and soft. It's a place of rest, of renewal, hidden at the heart of stone. There are places in Utah where the ground looks painted. The Bentonite Hills, near Cathedral Valley, roll in soft, undulating waves of color, layers of red, lavender, mint green, and slate blue. These hills are made of ancient volcanic ash, transformed over millennia into clay-rich bentonite that swells and shifts with every drop of rain. After a storm, the colors deepen, and the ground becomes slick, almost impassable. But in dry light, the earth itself glows like bruised marble under a vast desert sky. There are no trails here, no railings, just raw texture and tone. Each layer tells a story of fire and water, ash and silence. You don't walk on the Bentonite Hills. You float across their silence, drawn by a palette only nature could mix. Like a wrinkle in the earth, Capitol Reef rises unexpectedly from the flatlands of south-central Utah. At its heart is the Water Pocket Fold, a 100-mile geologic uplift, like a frozen wave of stone caught mid-crest. Here, Navajo sandstone cliffs rise in cream and orange walls, while cottonwood trees line the green ribbon of the Fremont River. Long before it was a park, this place was home to the Fremont people, who farmed, carved petroglyphs, and built granaries high in the rocks. Later, Mormon settlers planted fruit orchards that still bloom in spring, peaches, pears, apples, tended by the Park Service today. Capitol Reef is a place of paradox, dry yet lush, wild yet cultivated, ancient yet continually reborn. Even the rock itself seems alive, layered with fossils of seashells and dinosaur tracks, singing stories in stone. Far from paved roads and crowded overlooks, Cathedral Valley feels like a forgotten world. Its centerpiece is a pair of towering sandstone monoliths, the Temple of the Sun and the Temple of the Moon. Rising straight from the desert floor, these formations are stark, solemn, and symmetrical. There are no fences here, no signs, just you, the sky, and two stone giants that have weathered 1,000 storms. When lightning strikes in the distance or the moon casts long shadows across the cracked earth, the entire valley seems to breathe. Early explorers gave them their names for a reason. There's a sacred stillness here, a reverence born from scale and silence. Long before deserts ruled this land, Utah was underwater. Roughly 90 million years ago, a shallow sea known as the Western Interior Seaway stretched from the Arctic to the Gulf of Mexico, dividing the continent in two. What remains today is the Blue Gate Shale, a bluish-gray formation rich in clay and organic matter, deposited in the low-oxygen depths of that ancient sea. Fossils of ammonites, marine reptiles, and bivalves lie hidden in the stone, preserved perfectly by the slow fall of sediment. When cracked open, the rock smells faintly of oil and thyme. To stand on this earth now, dry, dusty, sun-blasted, is to imagine waves lapping at coral reefs and giant sea creatures gliding where now only wind howls. The desert was once an ocean, and the rock remembers. There's a place where the desert lets its imagination run wild. Fantasy Canyon is a small pocket of rock formations near the Wawweep Basin, but what it lacks in size, it makes up for in wonder. Here, delicate spires and twisted shapes rise from fine-grained sandstone, weathered into creatures, faces, and skeletal towers. Locals have given them names: the teapot, the alien head, the flying sorcerer. Their forms are fragile, ephemeral. Some have already collapsed, undone by time and wind, but others remain, guarding fossilized fish and plant remains from a time when this land was submerged in lake water. To walk here is to enter a gallery where geology becomes sculpture, and every turn reveals a new, impossible shape. It is surreal. It is temporary. It is pure playfulness in stone. On the open rangelands near the Onaqui Mountains, silhouettes move against the horizon, muscular, untamed, wild. These are Utah's most iconic free-roaming horses. Often referred to as mustangs, they are descendants of animals brought here centuries ago by explorers, settlers, and traders. Today, a managed herd roams the windswept basin, their numbers carefully balanced between freedom and sustainability. They gallop across dry plains, manes tossing in the desert breeze, a living echo of the American West. Though wild, they are not forgotten. Periodic roundups ensure the land remains healthy, and some horses find new homes through adoption. Yet here, on this open land beneath the wide sky, they remain symbols of resilience, part of the landscape, part of the legacy. Cutting through the rugged face of the Wasach Mountains, Provo Canyon is a place of vertical drama and flowing water. Cliffs rise steep and shadowed, shaped by glaciers and carved by time. At its heart, a ribbon of silver spills down the mountainside. Bridal Veil Falls, a two-tiered cascade that dances in the light. Fed by mountain snowmelt, the falls run strong through summer and freeze into delicate ice sculptures in winter. In the mid-20th century, a tram once lifted visitors to a lodge above the falls, though it was eventually destroyed by avalanche. Now, only the falls remain. Constant, graceful, timeless. Along the canyon road, signs of life persist. Cyclists, river trout, old irrigation channels built by pioneers. It is a canyon of contrast, steep and soft, wild yet threaded with history. Rising high above the Provo Valley, Provo Peak pierces the sky at 11,068 feet. It is one of the tallest summits in the Wasatch Range, and one of the least visited. There are no maintained trails, only steep inclines, loose rock, and raw exposure. The climb is demanding, but the reward is profound. Sweeping views of lakes, canyons, and distant towns folded beneath clouds. Snow clings to its summit well into summer, feeding streams that wind down through forested gullies and green pastures. On a clear day, you can see the entire valley, stretching toward Utah Lake and the jagged silhouettes beyond. Few places in Utah feel so removed, yet so commanding. Provo Peak stands a mountain steeped in story. Mount Timpanogos, the second highest in the Wasatch Range, rises to 11,753 feet and wears snow like a crown. To the native peoples, it holds sacred meaning. One legend speaks of a young woman who waited endlessly for her lost warrior, her spirit said to appear on the mountain's silhouette, asleep in stone. The summit trail is a 9-mile journey through wildflower meadows, alpine ridges, and patches of lingering snow. At its base sits the Mount Timpanogos Utah Temple, its white spire echoing the peak behind it, both rising toward heaven in their own way. Every footstep here feels layered with myth, memory, and the humbling presence of elevation. Once known by a name rooted in misunderstanding, K2 Peak has been given new life, renamed to honor Indigenous ties to the land. The road to its summit winds and climbs with sharp turns and sheer drop-offs, offering panoramic views of the Utah Valley below. It's not the highest peak, but it commands presence, especially in the morning when fog lingers low and the cliffs catch fire with the first light. Adventurers use it as a launch point for paragliding and hang gliding, harnessing the thermal updrafts that sweep up the mountain's face. But even for those who stay grounded, it is a place of perspective. The name has changed, but the spirit of the peak remains the same, quiet, watchful, and rooted in something older than memory. In the city of Provo, two temples rise, distinct in form, united in purpose. The Provo, Utah Temple, built in a modern circular design with a single spire at its center, stands near Brigham Young University. Its white cast stone exterior reflects the sunlight, while inside, thousands of missionaries pass through on their way to distant places, their journey beginning in quiet reverence. Just a few miles away, the Provo City Center Temple carries the weight of history and fire. Originally the Provo Tabernacle, it was gutted by flames in 2010. Only its brick walls remained, charred, standing, stubborn. Rather than demolish it, the church rebuilt it as a temple, restoring Victorian Gothic architecture, stained glass windows, and soaring spires. It's a testament to rebirth, where ruin became sacred again. Together, these two temples tell a story not only of faith, but of preservation, how places can rise twice, each time with greater meaning. Sprawling across the valley west of Provo is Utah Lake, the largest freshwater lake in the region. Shallow and wide, it stretches 13 miles across, what remains of ancient Lake Bonneville, which once covered much of Utah during the Ice Age. Now, its shores are ringed with wetlands, reeds, and the echoes of history. For Indigenous communities, this lake provided fish and fertile ground. Later, pioneers used it for irrigation, navigation, and community. On its northwest edge lies Saratoga Springs, a geothermal marvel where warm, mineral-rich water flows year-round. Even in winter, steam rises from its pools, blurring the boundary between earth and air. Here, the ground remembers warmth, and people come to soak, to breathe, and to feel the ancient rhythm pulsing beneath the surface. In the Salt Lake Valley's western corridor, South Jordan has grown from farmland to flourishing suburb. Settled in 1859, its roots lie in irrigation canals and small ranches that once hugged the Jordan River. But the skyline now includes something much grander: the Wawweep Mountain, Utah Temple. Built from granite quarried in China, its spire reaches 183 feet. Crowned by a gold-leafed statue that catches the evening sun. It was the first temple built west of the Jordan River, and its position offers sweeping views of both the Wawweep and Wasach ranges. The name Oquirrh comes from the Goshute language, meaning wooded mountain. Yet today, the temple's presence stands not just as a beacon of faith, but as a reminder that this valley, ever growing, still rests on sacred ground. At the heart of Salt Lake City, the grid begins, not just of streets, but of faith and foundation. Temple Square, spanning 10 acres, is the spiritual and symbolic center of Utah. The Salt Lake Temple, built over 40 years from 1853 to 1893, rises in gray granite from Little Cottonwood Canyon, its 6 spires pointing skyward like prayer in stone. Nearby stands the Tabernacle, famed for its dome built without nails and its acoustics that allow a pin to be heard across the hall. Within it sings the Tabernacle Choir, whose voices have echoed across generations. Visitors come not only for faith, but for beauty. Cherry blossoms in spring, fountains in summer, lights in winter. Even in silence, this square speaks. It tells of labor, belief, migration, and sanctuary. It is Utah's beating heart, steady, storied, sacred. Perched atop Capitol Hill, the Utah State Capitol watches over Salt Lake City like a sentinel of stone and democracy. Completed in 1916, its neoclassical design, Corinthian columns, domed rotunda, was inspired by ancient Greece, echoing ideals of civic strength and order. The exterior is built from local granite, sourced from the same canyon as the temple below. Inside, murals, sculptures, and chambers house the workings of state government. But the grounds speak softer stories. Each spring, cherry trees bloom, planted to honor Utah's statehood in 1896. Visitors wander the lawns, read inscriptions, and pause beneath the wide view of valley and mountain. This is a place of decision, yes, but also of perspective, where law meets land and past meets possibility. Rising quietly on a hill in Salt Lake City is a structure unlike any other in Utah. The Cathedral of the Madeleine, completed in 1909, blends Romanesque and Gothic architecture into a sanctuary of sandstone, stained glass, and sacred sound. Twin bell towers rise above the skyline, while inside, soaring arches and hand-painted murals bathe in filtered light. Every surface feels intentional, every detail a devotion. The cathedral's choir school, one of the few in the nation, has nurtured generations of singers whose voices echo through vaulted ceilings during concerts and masses. There is reverence here, not just in worship, but in design, music, and memory. It stands as a bridge between Europe and the American West, between stone and spirit, an unexpected grace amid a city shaped by many faiths. The earth folds and buckles in the heart of Utah. In the San Rafael Swell, tectonic forces pushed ancient rock layers upward into a vast dome, cracked open by erosion and time. The result is a landscape of slot canyons, sheer cliffs, and twisted formations, rugged, raw, and largely untouched. Many of the slot canyons here are only inches wide, but drop tens of feet deep. They form twisting, shadowy corridors carved by flash floods, where each step forward feels like stepping into a secret. Scientists study these canyons as living laboratories, where erosion is not a theory, but an active, ongoing performance. There are few roads, even fewer people, but for those who venture in, the swell offers one of Utah's most powerful gifts: solitude, scale, and the sound of silence broken only by the wind in stone. In most years, the red rock below Gunlock Reservoir remains dry, baked and cracked beneath the desert sun. But in wet years, when snowmelt and rainfall overflow the dam, something rare and beautiful happens. Gunlock Falls returns. Water spills over stepped ledges of sandstone, tumbling in clear cascades that form natural pools. For a few weeks, the canyon transforms into a paradise of sound and motion. Locals gather to watch, to wade, to swim, knowing that this beauty is fleeting. The falls reshape the rock beneath them, smoothing curves and deepening basins year after year. Then, just as suddenly, they vanish, leaving only memory, dry stone, and the promise of return. It's a reminder that nature does not operate on our schedule. Its wonders are real, but not always repeatable. Nestled between crimson cliffs and desert hills, Quail Creek Reservoir glistens with surprising depth. Built in the 1980s to provide water for nearby towns, it has since become a haven for recreation and reflection. At up to 120 feet deep, it holds cool, clear water even in the heat of summer, drawing swimmers, paddleboarders, and fishermen to its surface. The surrounding cliffs, made of red sandstone, catch the light at dawn and dusk, shifting in color from orange to gold to deep violet. Beyond them, distant mountain ranges add a backdrop of grandeur. Yet within the quiet coves of the reservoir, the world feels still. It is the kind of place where time seems to slow, where water meets rock in a soft and steady rhythm. Simple, pure, enduring. In the center of the Great Salt Lake lies a stretch of land that feels like a forgotten world. Antelope Island, the largest island in the lake, holds more than stunning views. It holds life. Since 1893, a herd of free-roaming bison has roamed here. Once just 12 animals, today they number in the hundreds. Each fall, a bison roundup brings riders on horseback to assess the herd, ensuring balance with the fragile ecosystem. They're not alone. Burrowing owls make their homes underground, nesting in abandoned prairie dog holes and peeking from the earth like sentinels of the sagebrush. Unlike their nocturnal cousins, these owls are often active by day, standing tall on thin legs, blinking in the sun. When threatened, they mimic the sound of a rattlesnake, a clever defense built from instinct and evolution. Here, on this island of salt and sky, nature thrives in forms both massive and small, resilient, wild, and deeply rooted in the rhythm of the desert. High in the Boulder Mountain wilderness, where the air thins and the trees give way to open sky, rests Lyman Lake, a quiet glacial basin over 10,000 feet above sea level. Fed by ancient snow and surrounded by wildflowers in summer, the lake lies still for most of the year, its surface frozen and hushed. It was carved by the retreat of glaciers, shaped by ice and time, and named after Elias Lyman, an early surveyor who charted the surrounding wilds. There are no highways here, only dirt tracks, pine-scented breezes, and the sound of your own breath rising with each step. Fishermen cast into cold waters, campers wake with frost, and those who reach its shores find not just a lake, but a mirror reflecting the high, untamed sky. Long before humans walked these valleys, giants ruled them. At Dinosaur National Monument, bones lie embedded in stone, frozen in the moment they fell. Discovered in 1909, the quarry holds hundreds of fossilized skeletons, massive sauropods, fearsome predators, and plant eaters alike, all dating back over 150 million years. Visitors can still see the bones in situ, jutting from cliff faces in a sandstone wall. It's not a museum, it's a time capsule. Nearby rivers and cliffs hint at a time when this land was swampy and green, part of a thriving Jurassic ecosystem. Each fossil is a fragment of a forgotten world, calling us to imagine what once roamed where now only wind moves. On the western slopes of the Wawweep Mountains, a massive wound cuts deep into the earth. Bingham Canyon Mine, one of the largest open-pit copper mines in the world, descends in concentric circles like a great spiral staircase of industry. Mining began here in the 1860s, and by 1906, full-scale excavation transformed the mountain into a terraced colossus. Copper, gold, silver, and molybdenum have been pulled from its depths, powering cities and technologies far beyond Utah. But its impact is visible from space. In 2013, a landslide, one of the largest non-volcanic landslides ever recorded, moved 165 million tons of rock. Today, the mine operates with improved monitoring, balancing extraction with stability. It is a place of paradox, where human ambition meets geological consequence, and where the earth yields both riches and reminders. Carved by the Green River, the Flaming Gorge is named not for fire, but for the red and orange cliffs that blaze at sunrise. The Uinta Mountains, ancient and eroded, cradle this canyon as the river winds deep below. In 1964, the Flaming Gorge Dam created a vast reservoir, providing hydroelectric power and recreation across Utah and Wyoming. Above the water, on rocky ledges and dead trees, osprey build their stick nests, some nearly as wide as a dinner table. These birds, graceful and fierce, dive feet first into the water, their talons ready to snatch fish with astonishing precision. They return to the same nests each spring, raising young above turquoise waters. From April to September, the gorge echoes with their cries and the flap of wide wings. Then they vanish, migrating to South America, leaving the canyon to wait once more for their return. In a landscape already rich with color, Kodakchrome Basin offers something else entirely: tone, texture, and surprise. Named in 1948 after the vivid Kodachrome film, the park showcases over 60 sandpipes, tall cylindrical columns of stone that rise from the desert floor. They are believed to be ancient geysers, filled with sediment and frozen in place over millennia. Around them, trails wind through golden light and shifting shadow. The ground is scattered with fossilized tracks, shell fragments, and ancient leaf imprints. Each step forward feels like walking across a forgotten shoreline. As the sun lowers, the sandstone glows pink, then crimson, then deep violet, captured by the same light that once inspired film and forever inspires awe. This is Utah, not just a state, but a story written in stone and silence. From canyons that whisper of oceans past, to cliffs where wild horses still roam, to fossil beds older than memory. Each corner reveals something unseen. Not flashy, not crowded, but enduring. These are not just destinations, they are meditations. A lake that reflects the sky, a ruin that glows like flame, a spiral made for no one but the wind. And so we leave with more than photographs. We leave with echoes of wind through arches, of water falling in hidden groves, of bison moving like shadows across salt-cracked earth. Utah doesn't ask to be understood. It asks only that we look and listen.